It's the closing days of the Civil War, March 1865. Abraham Lincoln had just been elected to his second term, and the groundbreaking Emancipation Proclamation was barely 2 years old. Not yet a bustling city, the small town of Austin, Texas, was populated by fewer than 5,000 people, barely 30% of whom were Black. And it was from this population a dozen recently freed slaves, known as freedmen, first assembled in the basement of 10th Street Methodist Episcopal Church, a former white slave owners' church, now known as First United Methodist Church, originally organized in 1839 at 4th and Congress Avenue, where the Frost Tower now sits. Years later, on March 4th, 1865, with the help of Reverend Joseph Welch, a white missionary, and Reverend Isaac Wright, who was Black, the Wesley Chapel Methodist Episcopal Church was founded. The new church held its first meetings in the basement of 10th Street Methodist Episcopal Church at 10th and Brazos, where today sits St. Mary's Cathedral. 275 souls soon joined Wesley, and as Reconstruction spread across the South, the larger American Black Church started gaining footholds in both northern and southern states as newly freed slaves began planting their own churches. These newly formed churches quickly became centerpieces of the Black community, serving not just as houses of worship, but as schools, meeting halls, orphanages, makeshift hospitals, and social welfare centers. With the support of a church conference land grant, in 1874, Wesley built its first church building at 9th and Natchez Streets. It was a small, humble structure of roughly 2,400 square feet with a dirt floor. The church grew quickly, and in 1882, construction began on a new, much larger building on the very same property. The second edifice was known fondly as Old Wesley on the Hill, a downtown church. During this period, the African Methodist Episcopal Church emerged as the second largest post-Civil War Black denomination, with a membership of almost 400,000. The National Baptist Convention, founded by Black Americans, boasted a membership of over 3 million Black Baptists. Other, relatively smaller denominations added another 500,000 members, and by the turn of the 19th to 20th century, America's Black Church had a documentable membership in excess of 4 million African Americans. The NAACP was founded in 1909 and the National Urban League in 1910, both organizations serving as prototypes for the many civil rights organizations of the 20th century. Following World War I, the once little town of Austin had grown into an urban center of almost 35,000 people. As a result of the 1928 city ordinance for mandated segregation, Wesley purchased the current property and built our now landmark church for $50,000 in October 1929. Despite Jim Crow and the Klan's ubiquitous influence throughout the South, Wesley Chapel and the larger Black church pressed on. Wesley continued expanding during this period, taking active roles in the burgeoning civil rights movements of the early 1900s, and expanding its footprint following the market crash of 1929 and the 15 years of depression and war that followed. Roosevelt's New Deal public works projects ensured employment opportunities for Black Americans, and his creation of the Civil Rights Section of the Justice Department in 1939 did more to advance the civil rights effort than anything again, until President Johnson's Civil Rights Act of 1964. In your word, dear Lord, lead me, guide me every day. From the 1940s through the 60s, Wesley Church members Dr. Everett H. Givens, Virgil C. Lott, Dr. John Q. Taylor King Sr., and Dr. Connie Yearwood Connor were all pivotal leaders of Wesley United Methodist Church and instrumental in the advancement of the civil rights movement in Austin. In fact, Dr. Givens' name appears on the cornerstone of our church, and Virgil Lott was the first Black to earn a law degree from the University of Texas at Austin. Dr. King served as president of Houston-Tillotson College for 23 years, and Dr. Connor was the first Black female public health physician during segregation and chaired the Wesley Board of Trustees as well. Wesley saw great strides in the mid-20th century. Under the pastorate of the Reverend Freddie B. Dixon Sr., the church was the founding institution for the Austin Area Urban League in 1977. Created a special task force to help alleviate the high suspension rate of African American students in the Austin Independent School District, and the congregation was larger than ever. By this time, the tiny village of Austin had grown to 1 million people. The church is known for its great preaching, spiritual music, education, its relationship with Houston-Tillotson University since 1879, and its outreach to the greater Austin community at large. Wesley is also known for helping the least, the lost, and the left out. The church continues to carry out the mission of taking Jesus at his word by feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, housing the homeless, and visiting the sick. In 1985, Wesley United Methodist Church was recognized as a national site by the National Register of Historic Places, and the United Methodist Church recognized our sanctuary as a historic site. Other historical markers are from the Texas Historical Commission, the City of Austin, and the Equal Justice Institute, dedicated to lynched victims of Travis County. Hallelujah. In the spring of 2020, like thousands of other churches across the country, Wesley discontinued in-person worship each Sunday due to COVID and began focusing its worship services online. 21 months later, on January 2nd, 2022, we threw open our doors once again and reaffirmed our commitment to the message of Christ with in-person worship each Sunday at 10 a.m. Join us online or in person each Sunday at 10 a.m. and experience the joyful worship and music of Wesley United Methodist Church of Austin. Founded in March of 1865, we are now, in 2023, 158 years old. Oh, and the Austin metro area is now home to over 2 million people.